I'm Jerry Lundegaard.
You got the car?
You bet. Brand new burnt umber Sierra.
You want your own wife kidnapped.
Her dad, he's real well off.
So why don't you just ask him for the money?
See, these are personal matters.
Personal matters?
Wait, it's Jerry. I don't know what to do. It's my wife.
We gotta talk. It's something hard, geez. It's terrible.
So I got the state looking for a Sierra with a tank starting VLR.
I'm not sure that I agree with you 100% on your police work there, Lou. I think that vehicle there probably had dealer plates.
Jeez.
DLR?
No, they said no cops.
Here's the second one. So we got a trooper pull someone over.
Is the new car then, sir?
Oh, it certainly is, officer. Still got that smell.
There's a high-speed pursuit. We got a shooting. And then this execution type deal.
$1 million is a lot of damn money. They got my daughter.
Why's that, hon?
Brought you some lunch, Margie. What are those, night crawlers?
Oh, yeah, looks pretty good.
How's Jean?
Who's Jean?
My wife.
Well, the little guy, he was kind of funny looking.
You were having sex with a little fella then?
Yeah.
Mr. Lundegaard, you mind if I sit down? Carrying quite a load here.
Where's Jerry?
Got your damn money. Now where's my daughter?
Jeez.
Blood has been shed. We now want the entire 80,000.
I answered the darn... I'm cooperating here.
You have no call to get snippy with me. I'm just doing my job here.
What do you fellas got yourself mixed up in?
Police!
So,
Is there anything else you can tell me about him?
he wasn't circumcised.
Oh, yeah?
Well, hello there. Greetings and welcome to the 9th Movie Night Extravaganza takeover of the This Is Revolution podcast. My name is Forrest Miller, host of Movie Night Extravaganza. Our film tonight is one of my absolute favorites. Probably, most people's absolute favorite that have watched it. We're going to be talking about the Coen brothers' 1996 Minnesota crime drama, Fargo. It stars Frances McDermott, William H. Macy, Steve Buscemi, and Peter Stormare. Now, before I bring in my panelists for the evening, I would like to remind you to like and subscribe to both This Is Revolution and my channel, Movie Night Extravaganza. You can also support Movie Night Extravaganza on Patreon, where you get access to all kinds of amazing discussions and interviews. Links are in the description, and we're going to be having an after party after this. So, without further ado, let's bring on the crew. We got J. Andrew World over there, illustrator, artist, forgive them an argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and, the host of Bad Takes. How's it going?
Oh, yeah. Very good, don't you know?
Your Minnesota accent literally sounds Irish.
That's good because my Irish accent is crap, too, so...
Well, maybe you should switch them. Whenever you want to do an Irish accent, you just think about Fargo, and then whenever you want
to do the Irish accent with a bit of a lilt to it.
Of course, we're also joined by Christina Oakes. I'm Christina on Twitch, who has been, spending the entire day day drinking and watching the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. So, she might be a little sauced, but
Victory! I'm from Minnesota. Not really me.
The three worst Minnesota accents you've ever heard in your life.
My accent when I'm buzzed sounds more like I'm from New Jersey. So I'm not quite there yet. Which is weird because I moved down to South Carolina when I was like 4. So I'm like, how the hell do I even get an accent?
Well, you never quite lose that New Jersey accent, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or the grime that's on you from living in New Jersey. But New York, baby.
That accent's forever.
But my mom has a Southern accent, but when she gets mad, her Jersey accent comes out.
It would be funny if one day you found out if you get buzzed enough, you get a little Minnesota accent and you're like, oh shit, I've gotten Minnesota drunk. But we're here to talk about Fargo, which is not in Minnesota, which is in North Dakota. The town in this movie that's in Minnesota is Brainerd. I still haven't. I think it's a real town in Minnesota, right? I haven't.
You know what?
Look that up.
We should have gotten the book How to Talk Minnesotan to help with our accents, like the actors did.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because our first clip, I found William H. Macy talking about the process of getting involved in this movie, and he oops, wrong thing, but he says some very strange shit in here that I think was really fucking hilarious. You'll catch it at the end there. But
I got the script to read for the detective. It was one scene, and I read that, and Joel and Ethan said, "That's real good. You want to look at this other role, Jerry Lindergaard?" I said, "Yeah." And I went out in the hall, and I looked at the scenes, and I went in, and I read it for them, and they said, "That's real good. You want to work on it and come back tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." I lived over on Rossmore. Every actor I knew in town, they were coming in shifts. I was up all night. I memorized the entire script. Everyone helped me with these scenes, and I wanted it. Oh God, I wanted it, which is really a dangerous thing for an actor. You want it too badly, and oof, it's hard to audition well when you want it that badly. But I went in, and I read. I thought I did well, and they said, "That's real good. Thanks." And I was on pins and needles because I knew it was Joel and Ethan Coen. Everyone was going to see it. Everyone in the biz, whether it was a hit or not, everyone was going to see it. I was born to play that role. I understood it completely. I mean, it was instantaneous that I knew what that guy was about and how to play it. And I found out they were going to New York to see some actors. So I got my jolly little Lutheran ass on an airplane, and I flew to New York and crashed that audition. I walked in, I said, they said, "Oh, Bill." And I said, "Yeah, I'm worried about you guys. I'm afraid you're going to screw up your movie by casting someone else in this role." They went, "You want to read again?" And I said, "Yeah," and I read well. And I had worked on the dialect, which I think was important to them. And I said to Ethan, "If you don't give me this role, I'm going to shoot your dog." He'd just gotten a puppy.
it takes and then after that, it goes on, and he says that he knew it was a joke, and he laughed, and he's like, "Thank God he laughed." But it's like, Jesus Christ, he takes that really sharp turn.
I mean, that's how I got on this show, was threatening, Audrey.
Well, speaking of William H. Macy, a lot of people thought that he ad-libbed a lot of his stuff because his character stuttered a lot. But they're like, no, they worked with his character being a guy who does stutter. So that's something that I found interesting when researching this film, because I honestly thought he ad-libbed a lot of stuff too. It's like, damn, he's like, it's kind of hard to act a stutter without it sounding really, really fake. I've noticed. Yeah. Unless you're Bill Denbrough from It.
But it kind of adds to the shiftiness of his character, right? Like, he's always lying throughout this entire movie, and he's always trying to play everybody in this movie off of each other. And is bad at it, and completely within the first few minutes of the movie is already in over his head. But the fact that he stutters and he's not a good liar, right? It's a tell. Every time he says something, he's like, I'm cooperating. And I don't know. I think one of my favorite scenes with him and Frances McDermott is at the end, where he's like, she's like, you have no cause to get snippy with me. And he ends up just fleeing the scene completely.
I just love that scene.
Right,
by the way, Brainerd is a real city in Minnesota, and I'm looking at their financial report right now. They have a regional airport and library.
Oh, having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card. I watched Arthur.
But yeah, this is one of my favorite movies because every single character in this, I think, is completely memorable, in completely different ways. The only person I think is completely forgettable and should be is Jean, his wife. She plays that pretty well. I feel like anybody could have stepped in and played that role. But like, Steve Buscemi, they work his funny looking face into the actual like screenplay, which I think is amazing. Everybody's like, well, he was kind of funny looking in a a general sort of way, which is kind of how I think I would describe Steve Buscemi, right? Like he's funny looking in a general sort of way. Like there isn't anything that about Steve Buscemi's face. I mean, his eyes are big, I guess, and like
it's amazing how much Bill Skarsgård looks like him. I'm ready for them to do a movie together where they play father and son.
What about
looks like
Macaulay
looks a
Culkin?
little bit like Peter Lorre. I've always felt like I feel like they have a similar, like the thing that was wrong with well, not wrong with, but like the eyes that Peter Lorre have are kind of similar to Steve Buscemi a little bit.
See, I always thought it was Macaulay Culkin. I mean, for real.
Well, the role of Carl was written specifically for him.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that the Coen brothers worked with the same actors a lot of the time. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, when you get a good rapport with somebody, you want to work with them on something. So it totally makes sense that they'd want to bring in people that they know, bring in some people that they don't know too, to mix it up. So it's not always the same people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, having William H. Macy, who, definitely is not I would say he's not necessarily the star of the film, right? Like Frances McDermott, who is Joel Coen's wife, is the absolute star of the film. It's
like
kind of fascinating though that you get an entire 40-minute
thing.
You get a 40-minute story though, all about Jerry Lundegaard and all of the stuff that he's getting into to try to get this money. Like you get all of that before you even meet like Frances McDermott. Like she appears.
It's like a Elmer Leonard book, because like a lot of times they don't bring in the cop character to like halfway through the book because they're too busy setting up the whole situation, and then you got this other guy who's trying to figure it out. So it's very it's a nice nod to Elmer Leonard and kind of that modern noir. I guess you could describe his work as, but it's crime fiction.
Yeah. And he also inspired like Quentin Tarantino. He inspired like Christopher Nolan. I mean, we talked about that when we talked about Memento. Yeah. Like there's so many, he's inspired so many neo-noir. And I don't think I'd classify this movie necessarily as neo-noir. It's a kind of a break from our noir month, but it is crime drama.
But it's also like it's built like a noir in a way, like it does have like it doesn't quite hit all the themes that noirs do. Like to truly make it, but like there is a certain kind of unsatisfaction to the end of the story that a lot of noir has.
And I love the final scene, right? That he has her. I'm trying to find if I wrote it down, but yeah. So when it's not the final scene, but like when she has I don't even know how to pronounce the name, but the Peter Stormare character. That's traveling around with Steve Buscemi the entire time. And when they have him, like he's in the back of the car after he put Steve Buscemi in the wood chipper, which, plot spoiler, I guess, but you should expect by now that we're going to spoil the shit out of every plot that we talk about for an hour. But, yeah, she says, and for what? A little bit of money? There's more to life than a little money, Don't you know that? But it's not for money. Like, that's not why he ends up murdering anybody. Like, he just gets annoyed and kind of just loses it. And, as Steve Buscemi kind of demands what's his. And the characters in this, both him and Jerry are so beaten down. You know what I mean? Like, they're like puppies that have gotten kicked too many times by the end of the movie. And you see that actually on Steve Buscemi's face. Like, his jaw gets blown out. His he has, like, every scene that he's in, really, that he tries to take control or power away from somebody, he ends up being the one that gets hurt. And he's literally kicked around the entire movie.
Yeah, this, what's interesting about when I watched Fargo for the first time, I watched this after Deadpool 2. I remember I watched Fargo for the first time after Deadpool 2. And so I'm thinking to myself, when I watched Bill Skarsgård, little cameo as Zeitgeist, his character dies in a wood chipper. And I'm wondering,
a lot of movies have done that as like a,
especially with him looking like Steve Buscemi. I'm like, I wonder if they did that on purpose as like almost like an homage to like his, what happens to him in Fargo. And I'm like, wait a minute, I think they did that on purpose. Like, I know like Fargo is a very influential film. I mean, it obviously has, it has its own TV series, it has, its own little spin-off TV series with FX or in Hulu. And
which is really good, but the Coen brothers kind of they were executive producers on it, but they kind of shit all over it and like they were like, oh, this isn't really in our world. Like, this is a different entity than our world. They're just using the name Fargo and like,
it's an anthology series.
It's good. It's really fucking good.
I love it. quite
Oh, yeah.
enjoy it. But
Chris Rock can actually act.
Yeah, that's the season I didn't get as into, but the first season with Billy Bob Thornton and Colin Hanks, and that season was stellar. Like that season was perfect. And then the second season was good too. Third season started.
Key Woodbine in the second season, right?
Yeah, and that season was insane, and I like that they connect them all through a lot of stuff. I really liked Joaquin Woodbine's Mike Milligan character, though. That was my favorite out of everybody. His like incredibly stoic, intellectual, like.
You can give Joaquin Woodbine the phone book, and he will entertain you, by reading it. He's just like one of those people, just like oozes with so much charisma and just beautifully creates these characters. So I always love seeing him and stuff. But he's on in this movie, so let's.
Yeah, no,
which is a fantastic cast of white people.
So one line in this, and one Native American actor.
Yes.
One line in this that actually was.
There's an Asian guy too.
Yeah, a very. That seems interesting. I think the Coen brothers are very good at kind of coming up with departures that like you learn something maybe about the character themselves. Like you learn about Marge Gunderson, like in how she handles and brushes aside, that creepy, like obsessed kind of psychotic classmate of hers that invites her out. But at the same time, it's not really like it doesn't add to the story. You know what I mean? Like it's just something kind of that happens to her, and you're like, all right, well, she's someone who is assertive enough to deal with this and to go and inquisitive enough to figure out what was happening in the situation, but like not someone who takes shit. Like she's not just gonna roll over and like kind of let the guy do that, and she's willing to like physically remove herself. But like I think a very telling moment in that scene is when he's like, oh, let me come on over there and sit next to you, and she's like, oh, I would prefer you sit across the table or whatever. And when he does,
like,
I can see you, so I could see you better. And
I don't like to turn my neck like that.
Yeah, and so you realize that this is someone who's completely courteous, but at the same time, you're such a super lady has always worked for me while crying. Has always worked for me as a pickup line. Just.
You're such a lady.
But you realize she's courteous enough to, and which is, the Minnesota thing, right? Like Minnesota nice. Like she's courteous enough to kind of double back after shooting him down and be like, oh, no, because I can, then I can see your face better. And I think that does tell you a lot about her character.
Yeah, that's what that's part of the reason why I was kind of saying it's a bit like Noir, because there's a lot of things in Noir where like it doesn't really add to the story sometimes. It's like MacGuffins, but it adds to the characters.
Yeah, and I think also the fact that it's kind of a botched like a botched crime. Like this movie's a shit show. Like with the actual plot of the hostage situation gone wrong. Like every single thing that could possibly go wrong with it does. And some of it's obviously like Jerry's incompetence, because he is one of the most definitionally incompetent characters of any movie. But like at the same time though, it's kind of just up to fate, right? Like as Steve Buscemi says some on the phone, like act of God stuff. Like it goes off the rails really fast. Like it never feels on the rails. There's never a moment that feels like this plot is like, oh well, I understand what's gonna happen. She's gonna get kidnapped, and then the money's gonna come to him because his father-in-law is shitting on him the entire movie. Like every single time that he can humiliate Jerry, that's what he does. And so you never get the feeling that he's actually gonna let Jerry just kind of go through with being the one that takes the money. Like the entire time, it's like this is not a good plan. This is a terrible fucking plan.
Also, the actress who played Jean was actually born in Fargo, North Dakota. So it's like, we've come full circle.
Hold on. The one actor I didn't write down is the actor that played Wade. And he
hadn't made a movie in over 20 years.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Harv Presnell is the actor that played Wade, and I think he does an absolutely stellar job as like a ruthless Midwestern like capitalist, essentially, like just and like for him to just relentlessly just shit on Jerry, like all over his fucking
And
son-in-law.
then he gets killed and nobody finds his body.
Yeah.
Down by the river.
Doesn't Jerry see his body?
Well, yeah, but he doesn't call the cops or anything like that. He just leaves it up there. And so I'm imagining they probably found it between like him disappearing and his arrest. But like, you know, because remember like that scene where he takes off, everybody's acting like he's still alive. Because nobody's found the body yet. Nobody knows he's dead.
Yeah. And I think that it's a really amazing scene, his death scene. It's two characters obviously asserting their power against each other, but neither of them having power in the situation. You know what I mean? Like his just running up being like, no Gene, no money, that whole part, which is a pretty hilarious way to do it, because it's like, because he's making deals the entire time, right? Like that's his entire thing. He's like a Trump deal guy. And so for him to be like, well, how do I know that on the other side of the deal that I'm actually going to get my daughter? And then he wants to haggle with Steve Buscemi and like try to get him like to accept half the amount of money. And it's like, this is really how a fucking weird fucking business owner would like treat this, right? Like he's thinking about it like another business deal. And I mean, so is Jerry, obviously, where he's like, oh, well, this is my deal here. See, this is my deal. So like the use of deal as kind of this hostage negotiation thing, which, you know, it doesn't work out that way. Like in any crime, you know what I mean? Like crime is like, there's a desire to make crime into a business, I think. And it never works out that way. And I think that this movie captures that. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There are the deal in action.
I like the idea of a Minnesota Trump, though.
Yeah.
Oh man, like that's what Fargo should be.
Minnesota Trump would be like this. Okay.
I know words over there. I have the best words over there.
There we go. Don't you know?
Don't you know I got the best words?
Tremendous big league words.
Oh, big league. Oh, geez. But yeah, and there's kind of a lot of fascinating moments in this. I think it's fascinating that before Jerry reports Gene kidnapped, he stands there on the phone and he's literally like he's practicing his acting. Like he's like, and which you have to think like, is he kind of doing that also because to get the accent perfect? You know what I mean? Like it could double as that. But he's saying there and he's like, oh geez, I just oh man, oh which is where the stutter comes in. Like that's a perfect time for him to do that stutter. Because he really is trying to fake this panic call.
Yeah, no, and that stutter really is a great tell. Like I'd love to play a game of poker with him. Just be like, "You got a royal flush there, Jerry." I think I do. Don't you know?
I also I don't know if this is really like a plot hole or if this is. I don't understand this part. The one part that doesn't necessarily make sense to me is Jerry runs in and tells Shep Proudfoot, he's like, there's a second guy, this Carroll or whatever, and he's trying to like, and he says, don't know him, don't vouch for him. But then he knows Carl's name and everything when he actually runs into the hotel room and starts beating the shit out of him, which is one of the most brutally violent scenes in the whole movie because he literally whips him with his belt. And I don't know whether it's that he found out about him through through his actual associate that he put him in contact with, or whether it's that you're supposed to think that he actually did know him the entire time and was kind of setting some of that up. I could never kind of tell that piece of it.
Yeah, that's something that I wondered as well. I was like, what's happening here? But then again, also too, like a Coen Brothers film, you know, there's still like some element of like, what the fuck is going on here? Like I'm a little confused. But you know, one thing I want to talk about though is like Frances, how she had to like, I'm so sauced right now, trying to think. Like with the pregnancy and all that, like how she actually one of the reasons how she researched this role was that she was like following a pregnant cop, and she had like a pregnancy suit.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was you know, it's interesting.
Well, I just thought she would
for these roles.
She's like, I can't act this role out if I don't, actually have a kid in me. So, but she's like not. I mean, she's pretty pregnant throughout this, but she's not like. It's not like she's giving birth any day. And
Yeah.
I like her relationship with her husband, and her husband is played by Carroll Lynch, who has been in a lot of stuff, but like American
Horror Story.
Yeah, it's the first one that comes to mind. But I like their relationship because there's a whole backstory that they came up with where she and Carroll Lynch decided together that he was originally a cop, and the Brainerd Police Department was actually was pretty small, and she was better at being a cop. So she got promoted up the ranks and became the captain. And he just said, well, I'd rather be like painting my birds and doing my illustrations anyway, and retired from the force. And that kind of makes it a lot more clear, I think, when he actually goes to the police station and everyone's like, oh, hi there, Norm. And like, they all know his name, and like, they're all kind of chatting with him, and they're like, oh, how's the painting going? Which, I mean, your coworkers' families and stuff anyway, but like it's kind of fascinating. Like, oh no, she's kind of the person that won out, and in like almost like an alpha kind of way, right? Like she's the person in the relationship that really does like wear the pants and is better at this, I think, than he is.
And she's always like she's kind of putting things together really quickly, like the the whole license plate DLR, like, oh, I don't think it's the license plate starts with DLR. I think it's dealer. And just like she seems to be a little like putting things together, like she seems to have pieced most of it together, but she doesn't quite have the evidence to fully go through and prove anything in court or anything like that. So it's like it's almost like watching Columbo, like Columbo kind of piecing it together.
Hunch. Or watching when we were talking about Double Indemnity, and he has the little guy inside him that's kind of guiding him, and he's like, I know that something's like happening here. The little guy is talking to me, but like I don't quite know what it is, which kind of makes it the opposite of a lot of the characters that we've discussed over this Noir month, because a lot of them didn't really have a lot of these characters are just kind of bumbling through it, right? And like and aren't putting these things together, and like it's kind of handed to them like piece by piece, like this is what's happening, and then they're like, oh well, maybe I'll go over here, and then this is something, and like maybe I'll piece it together. She seems to like intrinsically kind of have a lot of this down from the beginning and be good at it, and I think that separates her from a lot of these noir characters.
Yeah, it's almost like an anti-noir in a way, like because the fact that she is actually capable.
Yeah.
And I do
nobody
like
else
how
is, though. Like nobody else in this movie is capable.
No, not even her husband, who probably
She's
is
like the only person who's like, okay, I know what I'm doing here.
He's probably a good painter. I mean, he got the 3-cent stamp. I haven't got a 3-cent stamp.
Did you hear they're gonna have a stamp of Nancy Reagan for Pride Month?
Really?
Yeah.
And it was painted by Norm.
Oh, don't you know?
My Nancy Reagan joke was Joe Biden saying, I thought throat goat was a gay thing. Like that's his pride month.
Not throat goat. No. Forrest, I'm getting drunk. I'm feeling it.
You mean throat goat is a straight thing? Yeah, my other joke was that it's a stamp that you have to put all the way down and touch your uvula with. But yeah, I think that her competence in this, highlighted by the other characters' lack of competence completely, right? Like just the entire movie just being filled with like incompetent, bumbling characters is pretty awesome. And to have a female lead that like really is good at this police work, and to have it be in Minnesota where like not a lot of stuff really happens, you know what I mean, which is something that gets hit on I think a lot more in the Fargo show, which is kind of in the same universe. Like this is like nothing happens for long stretches of time that really require, I mean, like I'm sure people like drug deal and like gamble or whatever, like all like small things, but like to have a bunch of murders kind of happen all at the same time and have to solve it, like that's not something that you necessarily expect as like a Minnesota police officer.
It's like a little too sus, if you ask me.
It's a little sus, don't you think?
How many times are we gonna do this bad Minnesota, North Dakota, Canadian accent? I know chat has been making a lot of comparisons to like Canadian accents and like
I'm sorry.
Oh, this is just the
oot,
beginning, David.
I was out there, and I know for a fact that it's not taken.
You turned Irish again.
What are you talking about?
One scene that this is actually what I was about to bring up, brought up in the chat. The scene that I really like is when she's going through the crime scene and listing like off, like she's like, I think that he came over there and then someone else killed him, and then but when she goes to the cop or whatever, like the state trooper that had gotten killed, she walks up, she's like, he looks like a nice fella. It's a real shame. And I've always really liked that line because it's just like such a description. What do you really say one of those things? Like, you know what I mean? Like they make it sound so procedural in a lot of different movies. Like it's like, oh, well, this person, he came in here, and like they kind of make it far more procedural, I think, than it is in real life. So to have her as a cop that's like Minnesota nice, like, well, he looks like a real nice fella. It's a shame that, it's a shame he's dead. Like, yeah, that's the kind of small talk that I would be making probably if I was stuck in
It's refreshing too to have this, this propaganda piece where the cop isn't this Sherlock Holmes brilliant type person. It's just, she just happens to kind of put the pieces together that she's figured out the clues based on what's going on. Also, the funny thing about the shooting is when the movie came out, I was in college and there was this big rumor going around that Prince was the guy who got shot because in the closing credits, the guy's name is credited as basically the Prince symbol, but like turned sideways.
Huh.
Which I posted in our private chat. I don't know if you saw that. And you probably had no clue what I was talking about.
Did you guys know that Bill Pullman was up for William H. Macy's role?
Enemy of the pod.
Yeah, due to unforeseeable circumstances.
His dog got shot.
He had to turn it down.
William H. Macy came to his house and was like, I am going to kill your fucking dog. But it also, I like the I'm going to kill your dog thing because that is a fucking Jerry ass thing to say. You know what I mean? Like, I could see Jerry as like a character being like,
oh, you're going to buy this car. And
you know me, guys. I'm still, for those who are new here, hi, I'm Christina, and I'm all about like learning about different casting choices and who would have played who. So this is like, I love this stuff.
So one of my favorite scenes in this movie, that I don't get to think about enough, I don't think, like, because I always forget it's in there because it's kind of wedged in. Well, the first time you see Jerry, and it says a lot about his character. It's another one of those kind of one-off scenes that says a lot. But the scene is when he's selling the guy the car, and it's the guy and his wife, and the guy has that whole monologue where he's like, he's not trying to push the true code onto him, and he's like, you said the car was ready, and come on down, and like he's getting angrier and angrier, which is Jerry is a fucking used car salesman. Like it really underlines the point that like these are crooks. Like this is on the line of kind of being a crook. You know what I mean? Like you tell someone,
Donald Trump
you
would
have
be
to
a
say,
used car salesman if his dad was rich.
Like you're selling people, cars that you're just selling people on cars that probably a lot of times have things that are faulty with them that you're not telling people about, cost more than what you're selling them for. Like it underlines like, no, this is like a shady dude either way. Like
yeah, and he beautifully was able to capture this as being a creep, and it really does add on to the character in a way that it's so nice to see. Usually like the rule in screenwriting is like every single scene has to go somewhere, unless it's like a MacGuffin, but like it's okay with this with a Coen Brothers film, because like a scene just kind of is there to like add to the flavor of stuff, and that really does kind of tell you who he is as he's trying to like basically.
It's a vibe movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I also think it's fascinating that the character of like Shep Proudfoot, right? Like the only actor of color, I guess, in this movie, his like Native American connect of some kind, the middleman between.
R.I.P. By the way, he passed away a few years ago.
I didn't know that. So that kind of relationship that they have, I think, with each other, where he's just like, well, I need something, so I'm going to go to Chef Proudfoot, and he's working at a car garage, and I kind of find it interesting that because car salesman in the car garage, of course they're gonna have that connection already, and then for him to be like creeping around there, being like, hey, can you connect me to your guys? Like it's kind of a perfect. You don't even need an additional explanation, I don't think.
Yeah, no, and then like he met Steve Buscemi in prison, so it makes sense that he knows him. I don't remember what Steve Buscemi's character's name is. He's just going to be Steve Buscemi forever.
Carl Showwater is the name of his character in this.
That's still Steve Buscemi. Whatever.
Yeah, you're Steve Buscemi. I never can pronounce the name of his Geir Grimsrud is the name of Peter Stormare's character. Interesting fact is that Eddie the Dane in Miller's Crossing.
It's been too long since I've seen it.
Yeah, I think so.
He's like the enforcer guy in Miller's Crossing. So he was supposed to be Eddie the Swede, I guess, and he was going to be played by Peter Stormare. But then Peter Stormare got a different role, so he couldn't be in Miller's Crossing. So they cast him in Fargo after wanting him to be like this enforcer character in Miller's Crossing, which kind of makes an interesting connection between the two movies, I think. Because Miller's Crossing is their most gangster movie entry into their repertoire. I think that is quintessentially.
And I always love that Peter Stormare, like if you see him in any other role, he's very talkative. He'll just chew the scenery talking. And this one, he barely says 3 words and just owns every single scene. It's fascinating,
and that says so much about the two characters and why they end up eventually clashing and fucking having Peter Stormare kill Carl Showwater in the wood chipper because
he wouldn't let me talk.
Yeah, but that scene between the two of them, right? They're getting more and more tired of each other. Steve Buscemi is another actor that never shuts the fuck up in any movie, but in this it's kind of funny that he's just kind of it's gibberish and they're in the car for so long together, and it's understandable, you want to have somebody talk to you, but the obsession the guy has with pancakes, the only time he's willing to talk is he's like, I want pancakes now.
I'm actually wanting some French toast or chocolate chip waffles right now, not the Eggo kind, I'm talking homemade, continental breakfast, let's fucking go.
And to have Steve Buscemi kind of have this obsession with getting hookers and escorts and stuff, and he has no interest in that.
Banging whores. Oh no, wait, that's Danny DeVito.
The sex scenes in this are so unsexy, and I appreciate that about it.
That's not really the main focus. We're not talking about 365 days, okay? That stupid Netflix film. We're not talking about 365 days. Oh my god, I'm sounding like I'm from Jersey, aren't I?
But we got Jose Feliciano's in this movie too, which is great.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's an interesting fact that it's just he's just kind of playing. You know what I mean? They have him just booked.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, Bruce Campbell's in this, who's everyone made a big deal about his who he was going to play in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, and he just had a cameo, and that was it.
Yeah, it's a Bruce Campbell in the 90s was also doing cameos in every Coen Brothers film. Because he was in
he's the king of cameos.
Yeah, but that's because the Coen Brothers loved Bruce Campbell, so they were trying to work him in for a while. But him and Raimi are childhood friends, so
Raimi got his cameo in Miller's Crossing, right? Raimi's in the shootout, I think, in Miller's Crossing. He's the first guy that. It's interesting because I think it was a little bit before. Well, it wasn't before Evil Dead or whatever, but it was before kind of Sam Raimi was as mainstream as a director as he is.
Yeah, I think it was before Evil Dead 2 though, which is his kind of big introduction to the world film. Because that one actually, I have as a kid growing up, Jason can probably attest to this. We recorded video, movies off the TV set with commercials, and I remember my Conan the Destroyer videotape had a Evil Dead 2 commercial in the middle of it. So
also the based on a true story aspect, this film happened in the mid to late 90s, where a lot of the based on a true story films were coming out, Blair Witch Project and whatnot, and a lot of people, I think the Coen brothers even informed the cast, like, yeah, this is not based on a true story.
Well, it kind of like there are true events. I think that
Inspired
happen.
by true events.
The loosest possible term, and I appreciate that the Fargo TV show kind of plays with that. Like they do the same kind of thing where it's like, but I mean, none of that is based on a true story. None of those stories are, but this movie, I guess, technically kind of is. I got one more clip of Frances McDermott talking about
Oscar winner.
Yep, Oscar winner Frances McDermott. She's great, really, in like anything that I've really seen her in.
Yeah, even the bad films that she's in, like Nomadland.
We're gonna call Conan out from the.
I should.
She's great in like in everything that she does. Like you can tell, like even when she's in like a movie that's like bad, she's still like her performance outshines.
Darkman. Another Bruce Campbell cameo, and but that's also Raimi, so it makes sense. Raimi wanted Bruce Campbell to star as Darkman. Fun fact.
I want to look up how the Coen brothers, like who they collab with the most besides Francis.
It's really funny that the other night on the after party we were talking about how Jason thinks that Nomadland is the opposite of the book. And now we have the Jason comment. It's the opposite of the book.
Francis, tell me, what do you like about this character, this sheriff?
She's good at her job. She's really good at her job. And I also really like the idea that, she was pregnant, but that was just a fact of her life.
Yeah,
she's got blonde hair. She's pregnant. She's just going about business. And I think that she's in her, she's extremely simple to figure out. There's not much complicated about Marge, but she's still surprising. She still surprises.
How about her relationship with her husband, which is a very interesting little take?
It's great. I think it's great. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people have called it role reversals of a kind of a classic marriage situation, which I think is kind of short-sighted because
she's the breadwinner, he's the artist.
Yeah, it's not that simple. They're both doing what they're good at. Yeah. John Lynch, that actor that played Norm, he and I had a kind of little actor story on the side that they were probably both on the police force, and she was better at it, and so she moved up through the ranks because only one of them could in a small town police department, and he got to go home and do what he really wanted to pursue, which was his wildlife artistry.
Even to getting it on a stamp.
Which is a huge, it's a huge accomplishment for him. So I think it's great. I think at the end of the story, they're doing really well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're doing really well, don't you know?
I think that I was just thinking about this when she was saying that, you doing that accent. No, I was just thinking while she was saying that about, I think the Norm character, right, accepting that the thing that he really wants to do is the stamp drawing, and maybe he's not happy with it, but he has a supportive partner. He has a supportive partner, and he's not trying to have ambitions past that. Kind of makes him the opposite of the Jerry character, and the opposite of somebody like Carl Showalter, and the opposite of even Wade. Like, people with grander ambitions. Like it's the moment where he's kind of realized that this is all that I really need to do. This is happiness for me. Is just doing this wildlife painting, and I don't need to
watching nature docs with the wife.
Yeah. And there's something I think really sweet in it, and you don't necessarily get that from it until that last scene when they're just sitting there, and he's like, they announced it. He's like, the 3-cent stamp, and she says, "You're Mallard," and he says, "Yeah," and he said, "That's terrific," and he says, "It's just the 3-cent. Houtman's Blue Wing Teal got the 29-cent," and then she's like, "Yeah, but well," he's like, "people don't necessarily use the 3-cent." And she's like, "But when they change the stamps," and she gives him that like really beautiful thing, and then he thinks about it, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess." And the movie ends there, and doesn't really have to have this big ending because, unlike the characters in this movie, he's a character that's kind of just accepted that this is happiness. Like this doesn't need to be more complicated than that.
Yeah. Oh, so I found information about like the most like collaborated with like the Coen brothers. Obviously, Frances McDormand, 9 films. Steve Buscemi and John Goodman, 7 films each. John Polito and Stephen Root, 5 films. John Turturro, George Clooney, Bruce Campbell, and Warren Keith, 4 films each. They have also worked 3 times with Michael Badalucco, Richard Jenkins, J.K. Simmons, and Josh Brolin, and twice each with Jeff Bridges, Billy Bob Thornton, Scarlett Johansson, Tilda Swinton, Tim Blake Nelson, John Mahoney, Tony Shalhoub, Peter Stormare, and Emmett Walsh.
Tony Shalhoub.
Joel Coen met they both met Frances McDermott on the set of Blood Simple, which is their first movie, which is kind of a straight up noir film in some ways, right? Like a neo-noir. And I guess they met because she was cast in it, not the other way around. And that's a really nice I think that's a really nice marriage story, and it kind of does remind me of Norm and like Marge Gunderson a little bit, right? Like just that acceptance of like, you're good at this, I'm good at this. And we don't really need to make it a whole complicated thing. Of course, the Coen brothers make everything a whole complicated thing, but that doesn't seem to be their MO with like hanging out. It's just their movie career.
Yeah. But they make such masterpieces.
Yeah. But they kind of shroud themselves in mystery in a way that a lot of directors don't. Not in mystery in the sense of like, oh, they're mysterious people, but they don't really.
They're not like Martin Scorsese, who's like, hey.
Is that your Martin Scorsese impression? Hey,
whatever.
Get out of here, Ray. Get out of here, Ray Liotta.
All right.
I got kicked out of that Scorsese meme group for a joke where they like blocked me from it for a joke where when Ray Liotta died, I was like, oh, all you guys want to pay tribute to Ray Liotta now, but you know what? Y'all were making jokes. Marty doesn't want him to come in to see the Barbie girl movie, which was one of the memes that somebody put up. And I was like, Marty doesn't want to let him in the house. And they blocked me from the Scorsese meme posting group. They blocked me from the Scorsese meme posting group.
Justice for Ray Liotta.
Well, he just wasn't like, he never got picked up again for another Scorsese movie. And there has to be a personal like reason for that. Although, I don't know.
Imagine if he was imagine Ray Liotta trying to do like a Minnesota, North Dakota accent for Fargo.
I think Ray Liotta could have kind of. I mean, I can't see anyone playing Jerry.
He could have played like a corrupt cop or something like that.
But I could see him in. I could see him playing like a Jerry character that's kind of down on his luck and like, not in his older form, but like in his younger form.
Yeah.
He kind of was like a down on his luck guy in general. Like if you listen to his interviews and stuff.
But, I like the way you're talking about Ray Liotta, like he's a Pokemon. Like he's evolved.
Oh, so I kind of want to bring you.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Joe Pesci.
I kind of want to pay tribute to Conan, who can't be with us for other reasons. This film is the official top 250 narrative feature films on Letterboxd.
Well, I mean, this is kind of. I think that this is like a near perfect film. Like I don't think that there's very many. I don't. There's no issues that I can even like really list out. Like this is a movie that it does what it. Ironically, at the end of it, does what it's kind of meant to do, and stays in its lane, and like kind of just gives you this convoluted, but like I don't know. It doesn't seem to have like almost grander ambitions itself. Like. It's kind of it's like the parking lot of a good film.
And the beauty of it too is like it does things that you're not supposed to do, like in films, like have scenes that really don't serve a purpose for the greater narrative. Yet like it all works beautifully, and like if you take those scenes out, the movie doesn't actually work at that point. It's this weird flex, like to be able to do something that's beyond what like 101 filmmaking is too, but like it does it in a way where it's not not trying to be too like, look at me, I'm so great. It's just
that's what I meant by like kind of a film without grander ambitions in that way, right? Like
it's like a flex, but like not even flexing.
It's a humble brag.
Humble. Someone asked, what is Letterbox? It's a place where you can like review movies. Give your thoughts.
And I think this movie also has some of the best monologues of any movie from the 90s throughout it. And like, I mean, the one that I want to obviously bring up again is the guy that's getting pissed off at him and is just like I don't know, like it's the whole True Coat thing. And to have, you know, the guy be like, you lied to me, Mr. Lundergaard. You're a liar, a bald-faced liar, a fucking liar. And he, you know, because in Minnesota, like the whole Minnesota nice thing, like you're not supposed to curse somebody out. Like getting angry and stuff is not something that really happens there, right? Like throughout the movie, like the dry delivery is kind of done in a lot of these scenes, even to the point where, you know, his kids are getting threatened on the phone, and Jerry's like, well, hey, don't go after Scotty there. Like, so to have at the very beginning of it, a guy realized that this is such a maddeningly crooked and you know, just a maddeningly crooked and deceitful person that he's dealing with, that you like get instantly, you're like, oh fuck, that's who Jerry is. Like Jerry is a lying used car salesman that his entire purpose is just lying to people and trying to get money. And he walks in there and, you know, he asks his boss, like, oh, do you have any extra Gopher tickets or whatever? And he's like, are you serious? And then he walks back out and he does the thing where he's like, oh, he's never done this before, but you know, he's willing to take another $100 off that True Coat. And it's the most maddening like interaction, I think, that you see like in this film. And instantly you kind of fucking hate Jerry, and you're like, I don't want Jerry to succeed in this venture. Like I want to see.
God damn it, Jerry. It's like Jerry from Parks and Rec. It's like, God damn it, Jerry.
Also, it's like Jerry from Rick and Morty, who's useless. There's a lot of useless Jerrys out there.
Yeah, except for Jerry and Tom and Jerry. That mouse knows what to do. I'm always rooting for Jerry in that case. We should close this out because you know, we're gonna go over to the, you know, movie night extravaganza Fargo after party. But you know, starting with Christina, final thoughts, anything that we didn't get to. You know, I'm sure we'll get to plenty of stuff. We'll get to talking about, you know, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, I'm sure, in the after party. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about?
I just want to mention, you know, if you really like the Coen brothers, you're not a completist until you see a woman, a gun, and a noodle shop, which is based on Blood Simple, from one of my favorite Chinese directors. And I'm going to completely butcher his name, but I'm going to try anyways. Oh, what is it? I just blanked on what it is. He did the classic Great Wall. Yimadu Zhang. So there we go. Check out that film if you're a completist for the Coen brothers, because it is actually based on one of their scripts.
I really like Ben has been carrying weight for Jerry since Chunky Monkey.
The brass monkey, that chunky monkey.
Just a lot of useless Jerrys out there.
Yeah.
Oh, one more scene I want to talk about before we close out. I really like, and this is another scene that, you know, it's way longer than it should be, I think, right? Like no other movie would do a scene this long of just the guy telling the cop, like, so I'm tending bar down there at Eklund's and Swedlin's last Tuesday, and this guy's drinking, and he says, where can a guy find some action? I'm going crazy over there down by the lake. And he says, what kind of action? He says, woman action. What do I look like? And he says, what do I look like? I don't arrange that kind of thing. And so that whole like monologue is just so long, and he's explaining to him, and he's like, but like the fact that he's down by the lake obviously gives you the location of where they are at the end of the movie. And when she's searching for them, she finds them at that lake. But like just to add the detail, like he's like, so over there by Bear Lake or something. He's like, no, well, this is over there, so it's over there by this lake instead. And there's just so much subtle dialogue, I think, in this that you don't really, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's so natural too.
So I called it in. End of story.
I could just hear, you know, granted my family's from New Hampshire, so they sound very different, but they would kind of tell a story, you know, kind of meandering like that. But there's a naturalism to this movie that makes it work.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are going to go over to the after party in a few minutes. You know, this is Revolution's movie night extravaganza crossover. This is the ninth one over there. We have a YouTube channel, Movie Night Extravaganza. We have a Twitch. We have a Patreon, and you know, we've been doing a lot of bonus content over there. And we after most episodes, if we do episodes on Tuesdays and Fridays, we have doing extra like bonus streams, calling them after parties. But you know, It's essentially just bonus content. So if you want to become a Movie Night Extravaganza patron, you get probably, I'd say, 40% more content, to add to your repertoire.
And I keep telling the guys to do more stuff that will really feature what they're really passionate about and what their strengths, and they haven't done it yet. So
hey, once I get my own studio, it's going to be real easy to be doing because I'll be getting a new studio soon. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't arrange that kind of thing.